It was 1964 in Meridian, Mississippi, the heart of Dixie and the shadow of Jim Crow. While the civil rights movement was gaining momentum across the country, in towns like Meridian, change was a whisper buried beneath generations of silence. Isaiah Bell, 17, was the kind of teenager who believed in better days. He was bookish, polite, sharp-witted, and black. Raised by a single mother, Isaiah spent weekends at church and weekdays in school, often walking miles to attend the segregated George Washington Carver High. He had a plan: graduate, leave Meridian, and become a teacher. But first, he wanted to make a difference right there. And so, he began attending quiet meetings with a small group of student activists, black and white, pushing for voter registration and education equity. Among them was Calvin Hayes, a white college dropout from Tennessee who'd come south with a group of Freedom Summer volunteers. Calvin, despite his own baggage, a father who'd disowned him and scars from fights over his beliefs, quickly bonded with Isaiah. They were brothers in cause. But not everyone in Meridian was ready for their friendship or their movement. On the night of June 10, 1964, Isaiah Bell disappeared. He was last seen walking home from the local church where he'd spoken to a room of 50 about the importance of registering to vote. Witnesses say he walked out into the humid night, alone, carrying a small notebook. He never made it home. Isaiah's mother reported him missing the next morning. The police, slow and disinterested, claimed he probably ran off. Within a day, the rumor mill spun: he was in Jackson, he'd skipped town, maybe he'd joined them communists up north. But Calvin didn't buy it. He knew Isaiah had been receiving threats, crude notes slipped into his locker, his bicycle tires slashed. The most chilling came 2 days before he vanished, a burned cross staked into his front yard. Calvin began digging. First among Isaiah's friends. Then teachers. Then reluctantly, dangerously, at the local police station. What he found sickened him. The police had a report from a witness who'd seen a group of men, white, older, following Isaiah after the meeting. The report was buried. Calvin confronted the sheriff, who told him bluntly, "You keep asking these questions, boy, you're liable to go missing too." 2 weeks later, a trucker found a body buried shallow near a dry creek bed 5 miles outside of town. It was Isaiah. He had been beaten, his wrists bound, and his mouth stuffed with pages from a voter registration booklet. His notebook, filled with names, notes, and hopes, was never found. The coroner ruled it an accident. But Calvin refused to let Isaiah become another forgotten name. He contacted journalists. He called national organizers. Within days, a young black reporter from the Pittsburgh Courier, Loretta Winslow, arrived to investigate. Together, Loretta and Calvin reopened Isaiah's life, who he spoke to, what he fought for, and what and who might have led to his death. Their efforts sparked outrage. News articles ran nationwide. A brief FBI investigation was launched, but it went nowhere. Witnesses retracted statements. Evidence disappeared. And the men suspected of following Isaiah that night? Released. No charges. Calvin was heartbroken and furious. He left Mississippi weeks later. But he carried Isaiah's memory everywhere he went. He eventually returned to school, became a teacher, and spent years documenting injustices of the South in his spare time. Loretta Winslow continued her reporting, winning awards and changing lives with her pen. And Isaiah Bell? He became a story, but not a headline. His name was added to a growing list of young black Americans murdered for daring to believe in equality. It wasn't until 2015, over 50 years later, that the case returned to the spotlight. A young documentary filmmaker, researching unmarked civil rights graves, found Calvin's old journals and Isaiah's story. With Loretta's help, the story was told again, this time on screen, broadcast, remembered. A small park in Meridian now bears Isaiah Bell's name. A sign reads, "He walked in truth, spoke for justice, and never came home." We remember. The case was never officially solved. But the power of Isaiah's life, and the friendship that defied the time's hatred, became a legend of resistance and mercy. In the last interview before his death, Calvin said, "Isaiah taught me that being white didn't make me free. It just made me responsible. And that responsibility? It doesn't end when the story does. Silence kills. Speaking up even when it costs you saves more than lives. It saves truth.